Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main event. You're here with me, Daniel,
And Aaron.
and you're back for another group preview. Today, we've got Group G. And just before we jump into it, I'd just like to remind everyone we are on Twitter, so follow us at UCL Fantasy Pod. We are also working this year with All About FPL, so go give them a follow at All About FPL. They've got like 16,000 followers anyway, so you probably already are following them. But if you're not, get on there. Don't forget to leave a like on any of our videos, all of our videos. Go back, like them all, even if you haven't seen them, even if you don't like them. And obviously don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any of our previews. Saying that, let's just jump right into this one now, Aaron. And we are going to start with Lille, who are the French champions. And they got off to an all right start of the season in terms of their annual curtain raiser, the equivalent of the Community Shield. They beat PSG 1-0. And since then, it's all been a little bit downhill. They drew their first game of the season 3-3, then got tanked 4-0, drew 1-1, but finally picked up their first win of the season before the international break with a 2-1 win. This is another team, as we've seen so many times before, that we don't like due to rotations largely. Leonardo started the first two games of the season in goal, but I think after conceding 7 goals, we're probably aware that he's not going to be the goalkeeper. Gerbic has then came back into goal, and I believe he is the starting goalkeeper anyway. Jallo's played the last 2 games at right back, whereas Selleck played before that. Again, I would go off the last 2 games because they got better results and they are more recent. And we know that at the beginning of the season, with football being played all the time, I mean, FIFA trying to introduce this thing where it's going to be a World Cup every 2 years is absolute insanity. There's enough disruption as it is. We know that for the opening games, they are going to be rotation heavy. Fonte, however, has played every game at centre-back, and he also has an assist in the last game. And Botman's played every game at left-back, and he got a goal in the first game in that 3-3 draw. They do play a 4-4-2. So right side of midfield, Mandava pretty much nailed. Sanchez. I've gotten confused here. Botman's either centre back, Mandava's the left back. My apologies. Sorry about that. I was just looking there. Sanchez is usually the right side of midfielder, and he is. However, he is out injured. So he played the first game of the season, hasn't played since, and we don't know when he's going to be back. It looks like a bit of a nasty one. So if you do have Renato Sanchez in your team, avoid he's injured. Where and Yazici has came in for him on that side. Yazici has also played in the middle. So I think one way or another, he is nailed. He has a goal and an assist. Andre has played in the middle. Xhaka has played in the middle. Bamba's played on the left, but Gomez came in for the most recent game. And even the forwards, Yilmaz nailed up top. He has 1 goal in 4 games, though. That is not very good. And there's been a little bit of rotation between Akoni and David, but David looks like he's the one that's going to get the start. And he scored in the last game. Bamba, as I mentioned, is injured, which is why I believe Gomez has came in for him. So avoid Bamba. We don't know when he's going to be back. And who came in for the injured Sanchez, is also injured. So avoid him. Lots to go off there, Aaron. Lots to go off for Lille. I feel like this is a group that we do need to go a little bit in depth because they're all so even, the teams. So every team here is going to have viable options. What are you making of Lille?
Well, I think that there are some options there, but by judging off the selected by percentage, there's only 2 players that actually are not 0%, which is Onana midfield and Renato Sanchez 1%. I don't know if Sanchez is actually injured or whether it was because he was trying to force a move. So
I have that he is actually injured, but you keep talking and I will have a look.
Yeah, confirm that for us. Because at 6 million, he doesn't seem that bad of an option. But he was rumored to try and just get a moves, like even on transfer deadline day, he was trying to force a move out up until the last second. And I think that's just unfortunate. It's kind of like the Harry Kane situation where you just don't know what the actual real story is, and then they come out and say, "Oh, nothing was wrong. This was
He's
agreed in the first place."
apparently got a meniscal injury.
Okay,
That's the
so yeah, don't
official.
select him for game week 1.
The official story is a meniscal injury. Jonathan Bamba and Timothy Weah both have thigh problems. That couldn't be any more oblique, really. I've got no idea what that means. Is it muscular? Is there something wrong with the joints? Who knows? Are they just tired? Thigh problems. Don't know whether it's ligaments, tendons, muscles.
I think the pricing for Lille is kind of all over the place. I think it says a lot when Lille's midfield and average price is more expensive than Barcelona's. I think that's just messed up. So when we were covering the Euros, obviously Turkey going into the tournament were dark horses. We said that they weren't, but that's how they were kind of brought into the tournament. And
I think that was very, very armchair opinion of Turkey. Yeah. When you actually look at them, like, really?
So Yaziki back then was touted as a good option for fantasy because he's got one of the best set piece percentage ratings around Europe. If in this game though, he's 7.5. So even though he's
forward
dear me.
I don't get it. I don't understand that at all. He's 100% a midfielder. I'm going to double check that. I've got written down that he's a forward. I am going to double check that because it is totally crazy if he is.
Yeah. So I believe he is, which is just madness because I was about to say that he is the same price as Ferran Torres. So it doesn't seem that good of a pick at 7.5, but the fact that he's a forward makes him even worse of a pick. So yeah, it's just kind of lazy in terms of the people that make the game. We find them all the time. I feel like we need like a highlight video of just all the things that have gotten wrong. Almost as bad as Lord Lundstrom in FPL.
Yeah.
But we didn't mind that one. But Font, he's their captain. He is quite a regular guest on English talk shows because he's probably one of the only ones that has played in the Premier League that we can relate to. But also in terms of English, he's one of the best speakers of English. So he's quite a regular guest on all talk shows, basically. They're all sports related, Talk Sport, Sky Sports. He's on all of them. And so he's probably going to go into punditry. But from his insights and what he was saying from a few of his interviews that I was listening to, he thinks that Lille have a really good chance in this group and they were very happy with the draw. But I think every team looking at this draw could probably say the same thing. But I would say out of all the defenders, he's probably the go-to because not only do we know him, but he's the captain. He is the less likely to be rotated. I'm not 100% sure what his price is off the top of my head, but
I believe he's 5 million, which immediately puts me into just absolutely not. Nowhere near. I think there's a 4 million defender in this group that starts, which we'll get to. So I mean that immediately is him over Fonte. Yeah. However, if you are looking at someone defensively for Lille, Mandava, the left back, is 4.5 million. Started every game. He did get subbed off in the first game of the season. So what? He's probably not fit. And we've got Jallo, who is, I believe, the right back, who's just came in for the last 2 games. He's 4.5 million. And we've got another 4.5 million goalkeeper in Gerbic. So when there's 4.5 million options, whether that be one of the 2 defenders who are fullbacks or the goalkeeper, I think I'd rather go there. I do appreciate Fonte is probably more likely to get some ball recoveries than those 2. But for the 0.5, when I look at other 5 million defenders, because it's not fair to necessarily just compare Fonte to his own team, it's 2 other 5 million defenders. I think there's way better options elsewhere than him. So I think you either say, I'm going to avoid Lille, or if I'm interested in the clean sheets, drop down to one of the 4.5s. Or I quite like the idea of the goalkeeper at 4.5. I was talking about tripling up on Ajax in that awful predicament you're going to be in with 4.5 million Alvarez, 4.5 million Mazraoui, and 4.5 million Stecklenburg. If you don't want that situation, get yourself involved with Lille's goalkeeper. If anything, it might be a less attacking group. It's a very interesting one, but I think they've got more of a chance of keeping a clean sheet against teams like Salzburg, who've just had to sell everyone, and Sevilla, who are a defensively minded team. So, yeah.
He plays on a different day to Stecklenburg and the other 4.5s from that group. So he plays on the same night as Musso for Atalanta. So I guess you could choose between them two, either Musso or...
I suppose a lot of people are going for Benu, so if you're going for him, you're going to want a goalkeeper that plays on a different day. But if you're not going for Benu, then you could go for him, because I think Benu's the same day.
Yeah,
it will be, because Benu's in this group. So yeah, it depends on who your other goalkeeper is. I think the final player to talk about before we move on is Yilmaz, 8 million. I'll be staying well clear of him. Personally, I don't care if he's their talisman. 1 goal in 4 games. Yeah, he had a good season last time out. But this is just a different standard of football, in my opinion. And 8 million is far too pricey when I look at other players at that price point. Do you disagree? Or is Yilmaz a player that you think could be interesting?
Not really. Like you said about the other teams, Sevilla quite defensively sound. And we saw how Yilmaz deals with that kind of defensive pressure. I don't know. I don't watch too much of Ligue 1, but I don't know if the pressure is as intense, because when we saw him in the Euros against Italy, yes, he was Turkey's most dangerous player, but even against Switzerland and Wales, he didn't even look that threatening. So I know Turkey were probably a worse team than Lille, but I just think that when you compare that, and we're trying to select from all of these other forwards, he's probably not going to make it into our top 3 that we're going to try and build our team around. So he might be good. He might get a goal or 2, but compared to other strikers around his price point, he's probably not the best one to go for. So I'm not going to pick him.
Let's jump into Salzburg. Historically, we've enjoyed watching these, but they've just been absolutely decimated by transfers over the last 2 or 3 years, unfortunately. Kohn is their goalkeeper, another 4.5 million playing goalkeeper. So I was under the impression that there wasn't very many. There's absolutely loads of 4.5 million goalkeepers, which I think is really nice, because it's going to allow you to perhaps get far more expansive players outfield, which I think is definitely more preferable in this game. It seems to me that in the Champions League, if a goalkeeper gets lots of save points, they aren't necessarily getting clean sheets because of the quality of the teams that they're playing against. And the teams with massive amounts of quality, the goalkeepers just don't make enough saves. Like, the disparity in quality between the teams is much greater in this competition in the group stages than what you'll find in domestic leagues, unless you're looking at, top versus bottom of the German league or the French league or something like that. The right back was Nissen, got a goal in his first 3 games. Capaldo's came in most recently, but one thing that's great with these is these had to qualify. So they've had 2 Champions League games. They won both 2-1. They've also won the league games 3-1 and 1-0. So not great for clean sheets, but Nissen does seem to be the starting right back, even though Capaldo played in the last game. Soyer started the first 3 games and was then subbed out for Piatkowski. Piatkowski and Wöber have rotated, but Wöber's played both of the Champions League games, which is really important to remember, as I do think that's going to be the best indication. Ulmer has played the Champions League games, and Bernardo has played a left back in the league. So if I'm trying to piece together their back four, because they do consistently play a four at the back, I'd say I had a look. I don't think Nissen got injured. I did try and look. So providing he's fit, I do think Nissen will be the centre back, the right back. Sorry, I think Soye and Warber will be the centre backs, and I think Ulmer will be the left back, in my opinion. They do move around between a diamond and a 4-3-1-2, but in holding is generally Camara, who actually has an assist in the last Champions League game. Seevold came in for the most recent league game, but the last league game was almost entirely a different team. So I'm actually going to just completely disregard the last league game because it's really confusing just how many changes they made. I think they made 9 changes or something daft. Seevold does naturally play in one of the midfield anyway, so he could still be a pick. Aronson has played 2 of the 3 games, but also came off the bench in the first Champions League game, and he scored 2 goals. And I've got him written down as a player to watch, and I'll discuss why very shortly. Sesko and Adeyemi seem to be the forwards. Berisha's not really getting a look in. He's made 1 substitute appearance, got a goal. Adeyemi's got 2 goals. Sesko has got a goal and an assist. And other than that, they're quite rotation heavy. But do you have any initial thoughts on Salzburg?
I think it's really interesting the pricing for Salzburg, because going off their past Champions League experiences, they've given both groups a really, really good go. Like when they had Haaland and Minamino up front, they almost got out. And then last year they made another really good effort, gave Liverpool a really good game. So yeah, I think that might have been Haaland actually.
No, that was the year before. It was the one Bayern Munich's group last year. I think it was them, Bayern, Lokomotiv Moscow, and somebody else. Can't remember the 4th team.
But either way, they still pretty much just gave. I remember that Atletico Madrid. They gave Atletico Madrid a really good game. That's what I remember. So I just think they're going to give it another good go. And there's only 3 players who are above 5 million in price. So I think in terms of getting budget players, this is a go-to team as long as we can identify who the starting players are. I don't know whether that's the reason why they're so low priced. But in terms of an attacking team, have got nothing to lose, going to give it a really good go in whatever game they're in. I think this is a pretty good team because if I remember correctly, Haaland was 4.5 or something silly when he was first in the game.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're going to identify another good player from this team. I'll let you go into who you had in mind.
Well, the first thing to note is, as far as I can see, unless there's some dodgy names going on, Sesko and Adeyemi, the 2 most likely forwards to start, are not in the game. I can't find them. Like I say, unless they've got some other names, like Jimenez has Maria, and I think, was it Palomino or one of the Atalanta defenders the year before had a...
It's the same this year as well.
But I've looked for them and I can't find them. So I don't know if you've been able to find them.
Yeah, so Adeyemi is a 7 million forward.
Is his name Adeyemi?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find him.
I think it's only recent because they're updating the app.
Oh, yeah.
With all the squads.
I did this last night and he wasn't on.
Because there was
searched by his name.
There was an update in the app this morning.
Ah, that's why. Okay, so 7 million forward. Okay, interesting. And then doing this live, Sesko, are you on yet?
I can't even find Camara, to be fair.
I don't know. So I can't find Sesko still, unless Sesko's got a name change. So, okay, Adeyemi, 7 million. I don't think that's a bad pick at all. Like I say, he's got a couple of goals in those first 4 games, and one of them was in the Champions League. He's going to be the talisman. However, there are some really nice picks from this team. First of all, Aronson, mentioned him earlier. He's a 5.5 million midfielder. He came on and played primarily in the 10. When he does come on, he's very attacking. For 5.5 million, when people are considering, even I think we talked about Fred. Yeah. Have this one, he might score. I've noticed, like I said earlier on, Berisha 6.5 million. He's one of the most expensive players for Salzburg. He doesn't play. He hasn't been playing. He's, like I say, he's came off the bench. He is a good player. Korn, like I say, 4.5 million starting goalkeeper. But I think the two little gems are Voba and Soye. For anyone that's looking, Soye is spelled Solet. 4 million. 4 million defenders. We could actually have a team, I think, now, we've certainly found 4 of playing 4 million defenders. In fact, yeah, there's another one in this group. We just had one, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
We've got one later on in the group, so that's going to be 4 of them. So if you want to go super budget, I mean, I personally wouldn't. I think there's some really, really nice premium picks in defense that'll get you loads of points. But we've got some decisions to make about which option you'd like. Just to look more closely at Voba and Soye, they're both centre-backs. They've both played 3 out of the 4 games, and both of them played in both of the Champions League games. So I think they will be likely to start. I wouldn't be troubling. I wouldn't be going for both of them and Aronson, but maybe one of them and Aronson. Aronson's definitely in my thoughts at 5.5 million for a midfielder when he's got, like I say, a couple of goals in those first 4 games. A bit of a rotation risk, I will admit. But for 5.5, is he worth the risk? He might be if he's going to get goals. If he was just another ball recovery midfielder, then absolutely not.
Yeah, and there's no player that's above 1% ownership at the time of recording. So I think all of these players are enablers and differentials as well. Yeah. That could really give you an advantage in your mini leagues.
Especially with how everyone is looking now at premium strikers, getting 3 in. If you went 4, for example, Palinha at Sporting, we did him. He's in the goals at the minute, 5 million. Aronson, 5.5. And then you go for a Marino, one of these 2 4s, just knocking around. You might be able to afford, without breaking your team, 3 premium strikers, a premium defender, and a premium midfielder, like a De Bruyne or a Salah, that are more explosive. So I quite like. I think a lot of the prices are wrong, but I'm enjoying the existential dread of which ones to pick at the minute. We'll jump into Sevilla. We know a lot about these from last year. Their major transfer in, they've been quite quiet, is Delaney from Dortmund, which I don't think is coincidental that we see just how bad their defense has gotten without him protecting. It's bad enough Witsel not being actually playing in midfield. But he breaks everything up. He's absolutely excellent. He's not played yet. He was quite a late transfer, I think. They have messed around with formations in the first 3 games, Sevilla. They went from a 3-4-2-1 to a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3. Dimitrovic played the first game, but then Banu came and he's played the last 2 games. Koundé has been in and out. He started at right back. Right-sided centre-half. Then played his centre-half in one of the back 4 and then didn't play the next game. I think that might have been just maybe because of the transfer rumours. I don't know if he wasn't training right because he was really heavily linked with Chelsea. Carlos has played all 3 games. Rekic played the first game and the most recent game. And beyond that, Acuna's played the last 2 games. So he's going to be an interesting pick. We'll talk about him later on. Navas has played every game, whether it be right wing back or right back. Fernando's played every game. Jordan has played every game. Who else we got? And then it's been the hokey-cokey a little bit. Rakitic has played 1. Suso's played 2. Neither any returns. Alejandro Gomez has just played the 1. No returns. Idrissi's just played the 1. No returns. Rodriguez, he's played all 3 games. No returns, but we'll talk about him later. And Naziri is playing up front every game. We'll talk about his price point very shortly as well. He has a penalty goal, a standard goal, and an assist. And Eric Lamela, who was also one of their transfers in from Tottenham, which I wanted to save for now, hasn't started a game, but he's got 3 goals off the bench. And he's got a very juicy price. Mm-hmm. The only injury I can really see is Oliver Torres. What do you make of Sevilla?
I think the forward players, like midfield forwards, are quite interestingly priced in terms of trying to build a team around them. There's like their forwards are quite expensive in terms of like Gomez, Ocampos, Suso. Probably wouldn't have them in your team, especially because it's all built so that En-Nesyri succeeds. So at that price point, it's probably better to just get En-Nesyri. And we know how well he did last year. In terms of the defense, though, I think it's very interesting. In terms of ownership, obviously you've got Diego Carlos, 12% owned at the time of recording. So he's one of the most owned defenders. Acuna, 6% is the next most high owned, and then Benu, 5%, Koundé, 4%. So everyone's just kind of going into their defense. We did the same thing last year, and then when it came to the Champions League, they didn't do well defensively. I think I ended up doubling up or something like that. So
a lot of people had Koundé because he was 4 million,
mm-hmm.
and Benu at 5. I think it was 5, which is totally understandable. Everyone would have Jules Koundé, and they were doing well in the league last year. But I think last year was a little different because no one had preseason. Everyone was running on empty. I think by the time that they got to the Champions League, they were so tired, and they still kept a clean sheet in the first game. I think against Chelsea, 0-0.
I think when I doubled up on them, it was the knockout stages. I can't remember.
That would have been a bad idea, yeah.
So I can't remember who they were against. But yeah, it wasn't a good.
I mean, they got smashed off Chelsea towards the end in the 4-0 or whatever it was.
Because I think at that point, before the knockout stages, they had just beaten Barcelona 3-0. But that was obviously the start of Barcelona's drop in quality. So I was like, oh, they've kept clean sheets here. They've kept it even against Barcelona, 0-0 with Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid. It was one of the two. So I was like, class. And then I think they got absolutely smashed.
Didn't work out. Yeah, but let's fly through some of these. En-Nesyri, 8.5 million. Let's make it real simple. You can only pick one. The same price, En-Nesyri or Memphis Depay.
Depay.
I'm going to go on En-Nesyri. I think he's got an easier group. I think Depay is a better player. But I think En-Nesyri's got an easier group. They're both on pens. And then genuinely, En-Nesyri, and then you can move to Depay after match day 1 or whatever, once he doesn't have Bayern Munich. Mm-hmm. That being said, it's not like Bayern Munich got the best defense in the world either. I don't understand personally why anyone is buying Jules Koundé for 5 million. He is a liability. He's very, very young. But the biggest reason is he's 5 million when you've got Diego Carlos and Acuna at 4.5. Acuna gets more attacking returns, assists generally, doesn't pick up many goals. And Carlos is one of the targets from set pieces, so picks up the odd goal. So they both have a better attacking output than Koundé and are cheaper. Don't go for Koundé, just go for one of those two if you want a Sevilla defender. I totally understand Benu because I think he is a good option for his price when you look at other goalkeepers that you think are going to keep clean sheets. I think the 4.5s, you can't expect clean sheets. If they're playing first and they pick one up, it's a great bonus. But I think you do need a keeper that you are thinking, we're going to get one. And at 5 million, I don't think you can particularly complain at that. Lamela, if he was playing for 6 million, is an unbelievably good pick with how well he started there. The issue is he is benched, so I don't have any confidence in picking him. I've noticed Goodell, 2% owned. He hasn't played. If you've got him in your team, get him out your team. And I think you've already mentioned Suso at 7. We had him in last year, didn't we? And he did all right. Likes to shoot from outside the box, so he'll get extra points for that. At 7 million, though, he'll probably come back to bite us on the arse for not having him. But I do think he's a bit of a hipster pick. But we did pick him last year, and he did all right. So I will forgive all the hipster picks on Suso.
Yeah, I didn't pick him. I was still mad at how he was doing at AC Milan. So.
Yeah. And lastly, Rodriguez, 6.5 million, plays every game in an attacking position, but no attacking returns. So I think he's a one to watch, but at 6.5, if he starts going off, I can see a big hike in his percentages, but he's done nothing at the minute. And I'd like to see something from him. And actually, to be fair, another thing with the Suso pick is he might be a rotation risk as well. So
he does get injured quite a lot.
Yeah. On to the last team, Aaron, Wolfsburg, who are having a little bit of a nightmare with some of the injuries they've just picked up. That being said, though, they've had such a good start to the season results-wise. They won the first game of the season 1-0. They then won the second game 2-1. And in the most recent Bundesliga game, they beat Leipzig 1-0. So they're looking pretty solid. I had 2 of these players in my Gaffer Super League team, and at the last minute, I took them out for Angelino and somebody else, and it's been a nightmare. So I wish I just kept them. And the best thing about this team is outside of an injury, they are so easy. So I'm going to read one team out, and it's been the same team for every game. Castells is the goalkeeper, and Babu is the right back. Lacroix is one of the centre-backs along with Brooks, and Roussillon is the left-back. Now, to make people aware, Roussillon is playing left-back because Otavio is injured. However, we don't know when Otavio is going to be back. He's got an unknown return date, so I can't imagine it's anytime soon. And Roussillon scored in the last game. There might be some fears that this is a bit of a Simicast moment where he's came in, had a good start, but Robertson was always going to come back in. What I will say is, no disrespect to Otavio, he is not Andrew Robertson. Andrew Robertson's arguably the best left back in the world and has been for 3 years. Otavio is not. So with how well Roussillon's been playing, and as a team these guys have been playing, he might have actually lost his place. Because if Liverpool didn't have a player of Andy Robertson's quality, I don't think Klopp would have dropped Tsimikas. It's just Robertson is the best left back in the world, arguably. Schlager and Arnold are the 2 holders. However, Schlager has just done his cruciate ligaments in the last game. So we don't know how that's going to affect their defensive stability, how important he is to them, but also he won't be playing because you tend to be out for a little while with a cruciate ligament injury. Baku, Philippe, and Stefan all play in the attacking area behind Wout Weghorst, who is the sole striker. Just to go through some goals, assists, that sort of thing. Baku has a goal. Weghorst has a goal. He's also the penalty taker because he missed one in the first game. He made up for it because he scored the goal in the 1-0 win. And they've had Nmecha, who Cameron absolutely loves, come off the bench and grab a goal. So they're not great going forward. What I would say is maybe target teams defensively against these. 4 goals in 3 games isn't anything to sing about. That being said, obviously getting a goal against Leipzig and winning 1-0. But defensively, why not? What have you made of Wolfsburg's form and how reliable they are?
Well, I knew they had performed well last season and that they definitely deserve their place in the Champions League. I think someone who was interesting for me was Weghorst for his price point as a third striker. If I need to, because at the minute I've got Depay, and obviously that could be En-Nesyri. If I need that 0.5 to go elsewhere, like if I've all of a sudden I find that my team is stuck with loads of defensive midfielders, going from Depay to Weghorst is something that I'm interested in. Sole striker, I think he's on penalties. I'm not sure.
Weghorst,
yeah. And so that's just an interesting price point for, obviously, like what you said, this group is pretty wide open. But then again, obviously we identified the Salzburg striker as well. So some good, interesting price points in this group, which I think we shouldn't sleep on them. We should probably look to get a few players from this group because all of them have got a chance, and ideally that means more points for us, unless obviously we get loads of minus points for goals conceded.
I don't think that's going to be the case there with these teams. We'll go through. So we said that we're going to try and get a back five of all 4 million defenders. And we have another one, Roussillon. I think it's because obviously he's deputising for Otavio, who, like I've said, has no return date. 4 million, got a goal in the last game. You're welcome, everyone. I'd take him. When they've only conceded 1 goal in 3 games and they played Leipzig, that's as good as it gets as far as I'm concerned for one of these teams in a 4 million defender. Weghorst at 8 million is just an absolute no-go for me. He's way too expensive when you consider the 0.5 for Depay or En-Nesyri. For anyone that's confused, Lucas Mecha is the one that's played. He's the forward in the game because there are 2 in Mechas. So don't be confused. They play on the same team, so it's going to be even worse than Moranchuk Gate last year when everyone was picking the wrong Moranchuk between Alexei and Anton. Pick Lucas, the forward, if that's who you want. He's the one that has actually played. I still wouldn't. Not that he's at a bad price point, but he doesn't play. He just comes off the bench. But it's just in case you were crazy, or for Cameron watching this, because we know that it'll be straight in the team. Mbabu, Lacroix, and Brooks are all 4.5 million. I think they're going to be more nailed than Roussillon because there's no questions once Otavio comes back with those other 3. That being said, I'm happy to take the risk on a 4 million defender, and then there's plenty of other ones playing if you need to make the transfer. But if you wanted something a little bit more safe, there's 4.5 million starting defenders for a team, like I say, that has a good defensive record so far. In the Bundesliga, anything else from you, Aaron, before we wrap this up? Oh, we've got predictions, actually. How do you think that's going to go?
So just last thing on Wolfsburg first. I think that in terms of match day 1, because obviously I don't know how people are going to do their chip strategy, but against Lille, first game, I think that's a pretty good shout for the Roussillon for the 4 million compared to some of the others who may have harder games. So for the group prediction, this one was quite hard, I'm not going to lie, but I've got Sevilla finishing top, then Wolfsburg, then Salzburg, getting confused with the teams, and then Lille bottom.
Totally agree. I'm exactly the same. Exactly the same.
Short and sweet. Well, yeah, the group prediction was, this episode was maybe a bit longer.
Yeah. I've already done my bit at the beginning, but just once again, get us followed on Twitter at UCL Fantasy Pod. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss anything. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it or any of our other previews, and we'll be recording another one tomorrow, and we'll spin the wheel and see where it lands for which one we do. Like, keep me on your toes. But thanks again, Aaron, and we will see you all later. Bye now.